Okay, friends, today we are going to talk about how to be more assertive without feeling like a jerk. And I feel like that part's really important to add in because that's oftentimes what I hear people say or that like I felt. So I want to talk about assertiveness. And I was actually thinking of this topic recently, particularly in relation to myself and this idea of how people change and then how that's viewed. So this came up recently in a conversation that I was having with somebody about how I've changed, how I know that I've changed and my personality and my assertiveness and how I've evolved and how I'm much more straightforward and assertive than I used to be. And I made the comment to this person that I'm just more straightforward, and they said like, yeah, you are. And, one of the things I said is honestly, I just have, as I've grown as a person and especially like in starting a business and growing my business, like I just have to be more assertive. And part of it was like, I don't have like patience or tolerance for much else, for like the beating around the bush or the not speaking up, not saying things. And then I almost had this moment of like regressing to where I used to feel, where I felt like guilty for feeling that way, or I felt guilty for being more assertive and straightforward. But then I quickly caught myself because this is an area that I feel like I've grown in a lot. And I used to carry a lot more guilt around that being part of my personality. And so I would kind of hold myself back from that, thinking that it was wrong, when really that's one of my strengths. That's one of my part of being a leader, is being able to be more assertive and doing it in the right way, right? So I think for me, I was always innately more assertive and like internally, and wanted to speak up for things, but I'd almost have this like internal battle. I'd almost fight with myself and feel guilty for being straightforward. So I can actually remember like certain meetings that I would be in where I would ask someone say with something, and I would ask them a question back to get them to think about it, or I would offer an idea, an opinion, and then I would almost doubt myself, like, oh, was that too strong? Should I not have said anything yet? And I genuinely think that women in general do experience this more than men, because I think it's almost expected that men are more straightforward, versus women have this whole extra load, especially women in leadership, women business owners, things like that have this whole extra load that we have to walk this line so that we don't come off too strong or too bitchy, honestly, right? Because in my experience and a lot of people's experience, it feels like men that's just how they are. And women sometimes have to play more of this game. And I never fully align to that because I tend to have, I don't know if we're talking like masculine, feminine, like quote unquote more masculine tendencies in terms of being straightforward. And so then I would have these feelings and these emotions like, okay, am I coming off too strong? Are people not going to like me? And all of these things. And it would just clutter. It would clutter me and my strength and my leadership. And here's the thing though, is when I started to get more comfortable with myself and who I am and my strengths and really who I was and what I had to offer, I got more assertive with my thoughts, with opinions, with my ideas. And when you get more confident in who you are and what you have to offer, you can be more assertive. And so a lot of people, they sit there and they're like beating around the bush around things. They're not sharing their ideas. They're not speaking up because they don't want to come off too strong. But the thing is, when you're making yourself smaller, then you're making yourself smaller when you feel this pull to be big. When you are feeling this pull to take up space, to share your ideas, to make bold asks, and you're making yourself smaller by holding yourself back and by quieting this voice, that it's almost like the visual I just got as I was talking, like a lamb who wants to be a lion. Like maybe a lion is a little strong, but this assertive, big, bold energy and take up space and to share your ideas. And there's nothing wrong or negative about that, which tends to be what we tell ourselves, right? Oh, I don't want to come off too pushy. I don't want to come off too strong. And I got sick of worrying about everything that I said, right? I got sick of worrying about it was going to be too strong. And then I also think, you walk this line of like, but I have to be assertive enough so that people see me as a leader, and I have to share my ideas. And then you get in your head of like, was it too strong? Was it too meek, right? Hopefully this is resonating with you. And I got sick of worrying about everything that I said. And here's the thing. Now, this doesn't give you permission to be rude and be inconsiderate and to genuinely be a jerk, but it's allowing you to speak up and to speak out loud the things that you want to say, the ideas that you have. It's giving you this permission to stop playing small and to stop feeling guilty that is all just a story you're telling yourself, that if you speak up and if you're more assertive, that people might feel those things, right? And when you don't do it, here's the thing is you don't get what you don't ask for. You don't make change if you don't speak up. You don't get opportunities that you've never had if you don't ask for them. And most likely the truth is what you think is being too pushy or is being too strong is probably just barely assertive, right? Because we tend to be so much harder on ourselves and beat ourselves up so much more that nobody else would probably feel that way. And you can be assertive and be a really great communicator and be emotionally intelligent, right? We're aware of other people's feelings, not just all about us. That's not the quote unquote right way to be assertive. It's still being aware of other people, but also asserting yourself and that's okay, right? So the wrong way, let's just say there's a wrong way to be assertive is it's all selfish. It's all about you. You're not aware of other people. You're putting other people down. That's not what we mean by assertive. We mean you feel confident to speak up and to share ideas and to question things from a respectful manner. And that's where a lot of people are missing it because they're lacking the confidence to do it. Where do you need to be more assertive? Is it in giving feedback to people on your team? I see this a lot with leaders. They have people on their team that aren't performing or that they just keep tolerating behavior and they're not being assertive in their feedback. They're beating around the bush. Where do you keep pushing things off? Where are you beating around the bush with it and not being straightforward with it because you want them to like you? You don't want them to think something bad, right? But what is that tolerating and not being straightforward resulting in? Is being more assertive for you, do you need to be more assertive in sharing your ideas in meetings? If you have a better way to do things, if there's something that they're not thinking about, but you keep holding yourself back? Is it in asking for that project, asking for that introduction, asking for that referral or that connection, but you keep holding yourself back? This is your reminder to be bold, to be assertive. The most successful people in your field, in areas that you want to grow in, they are assertive. They ask for what they need. They say what they want to. Again, there's like this art form where you can do it with respect and with strength and with confidence. They ask for what they need and they go for what they want. And they're not afraid of getting a no because they know that that's par for the course, right? You're going to get a no, and they know that they can pivot and that that's okay. Getting a no is not the end of the world, and that it gets them closer to a yes. It's one of the things that I always had to anchor into, and it started with asking for opportunities and for growing a business, is knowing that all of those no's are building you up, right? And they're getting you closer to a yes and the right thing that's going to be the right fit at the right time. And when I'm doing, my leadership and high performance coaching and I'm working with leaders and executives or business owners and they aren't doing this or not being as assertive and they want help in this, I will often ask them, what are you afraid of? And often what I get is, the fear of being judged. What will people think? Getting a no. And we'll kind of go through this process. And sometimes I'll say is like, what's the worst that could happen? And often what comes up, especially when it comes to like asking for an opportunity, asking for a connection, asking for business is, well, they say no. It's like, okay. And could you live with that? Can you live with that, getting a no? And usually it's like, yeah, I could. And then we talk about, but what if it's a yes? What if it all works out? What if that sets off this domino effect? Right? And thinking it from that lens, because we tend to view things in this negative. If I do this, then this thing's going to happen. They're going to think this. It's like, but what if it turned out the different way? And really reframing that and helping them anchor back into, and me pushing them to be more assertive and more bold in what they're asking for and how they're communicating and how they're showing up. And so a lot of this is, stopping the self-talk and stop telling yourself that if you speak up, they're going to think you're a jerk, or people are going to think bad of you, or they're going to think you're pushy, right? That's all unnecessary noise that's getting in the way of you boldly asking for and going for what you want. Leaders are assertive, right? People who are self-led, they are assertive, they are straightforward, and people are looking to you to lead them, to guide them. And if you're so afraid of coming off like a jerk or coming off pushy or whatever, to me, what that tells me is that you do care, that you care about other people, you care about how they're going to perceive you, but you also care about them, and that you most likely won't come off that way because you already have this care and you are in tune with being aware of those around you. So you most likely aren't going to come off that way anyways. So I want you to think about, it's time for you to start stepping into that assertiveness and to be really viewed as a leader in your space. And think about, where are you not being as assertive as you would like, and what's the impact? And what would happen if you were more assertive? If right now, listening to this episode, you took one big, bold, assertive action, what would it be, and what could that turn into? What could that turn into if you were to take that big, bold, assertive step? I want you to think about this, and I want you to go and do it. This is your challenge. This is your challenge to, what is that one thing that you just know that if you could be a little bit more assertive on, if you could speak up, if you could share that feedback, if you would ask for that opportunity, if you could make that bold ask, that it could set off this domino effect. And I would love if you would share this with me, but this is your reminder that it is okay to be assertive.